Lynch syndrome hides in about 1 in 300 people. Most who carry it have never heard of it. Yet they carry a mutation in every cell of the body, one that sharply raises the risk of colorectal and endometrial cancer, often decades early. And most of those cancers are preventable, if you know to look. Lynch isn't one gene, it's a small family of them. This is the story of one, MLH1. MLH1 sits on chromosome 3. It builds half of a molecular machine called mut-L-alpha, which works quietly inside every dividing cell, checking freshly copied DNA. Its job? Find the typos your copying machinery leaves behind and fix them before they turn permanent. Think of it as the genome's spell checker. The families were hiding in plain sight. In 1966, a Nebraska physician named Henry Lynch found families where cancer struck generation after generation. Colon, uterus, stomach, a pattern nothing like chance. He called it cancer family syndrome. For years, few believed him. Then, in 1994, two teams at once pinned down the gene at its center, MLH1. MLH1 is a classic tumor suppressor. One working copy is usually enough. But in Lynch syndrome, one copy is already broken in every cell, inherited from a parent. Then, in a single cell, the second copy fails, by chance. 2 hits, both copies gone. In that one cell, the spell checker is off. Errors begin to pile up. Every division copies 3 billion base pairs. DNA polymerase is fast and usually accurate, but it slips. It stutters at a run of repeated letters and adds an extra one. Left uncorrected, that error turns permanent on the next copy. First, the detector. The MSH2 and MSH6 pair slides along the new strand, feeling for the bulge where a base doesn't fit. It clamps the mismatch and calls for backup. That is MLH1's cue. It arrives with PMS2 as mut-L-alpha, nicks the faulty strand, and brings in an enzyme that chews it back past the mistake. Polymerase refills the gap, correctly this time. MLH1 never spots the typo itself. It coordinates the crew that fixes it. Now switch the spell checker off. The mismatches accumulate. They pile up fastest at microsatellites, short stretches where the same few letters repeat. Without MLH1, those repeat lengths drift, different in every division. That drift has a name, microsatellite instability, MSI. And some microsatellites sit inside other genes. Picture a growth control gene with a run of repeats in its middle. One extra letter slips in. The reading frame shifts. The protein comes out broken, and the brake on growth is gone. Now the cell divides unchecked. This is the cancer. Not one dramatic mutation, an avalanche of small ones in the very genes meant to stop it. Lynch syndrome is not a sentence. It is a raised lifetime risk. Left untracked, about half of MLH1 carriers develop colorectal cancer, and roughly a third of women develop endometrial cancer, often decades early. About 1 in 300 people carry a Lynch mutation, and most have no idea. Undiagnosed, the risk is invisible. Diagnosed, it is mostly manageable. If you know you carry MLH1, 3 things can change the outcome. First, a colonoscopy every year or two, starting young. In a 15-year study of Lynch families, not one person under regular surveillance died of colorectal cancer. Among the group that declined, 9 did. The scope finds the polyp and removes it before it ever becomes cancer. Second, aspirin. In a randomized trial of 861 Lynch carriers, a daily aspirin regimen taken for at least 2 years cut colorectal cancer roughly in half, with protection still visible 10 years on. This is a specific dose, run under a doctor, not the low-dose tablet on a shelf. How it works is still being studied, but in the trial, the effect was real. Third is the reversal. If a Lynch cancer does develop, it carries a strange weakness. Because repair was broken, the tumor fills with hundreds of garbled proteins. Every one is foreign, a flag the immune system can read. It is already circling. The tumor survives only by slipping its leash through a checkpoint called PD-1. Drugs like pembrolizumab cut that leash. In 2017, the FDA approved one for any microsatellite unstable tumor, anywhere in the body. The first cancer drug ever cleared on a molecular signature alone, not the organ it grew in. The defect that caused the cancer is what makes it treatable. The spell checker is off, but the immune system can read the typos. There may soon be a fourth. Here is the strange gift of Lynch syndrome. Those garbled proteins are largely the same from patient to patient. The typos are shared. So you don't need a custom vaccine for each person. You can build one off the shelf and give it to a carrier who is still healthy, teaching the immune system the flags before any tumor exists. In 2026, the first trial in healthy carriers reported 45 people, none of them sick, vaccinated against 209 shared frameshift proteins. Nearly every one built a durable immune response, safely. Nothing is approved yet, and prevention is still being tested. But the idea is startling. A cancer vaccine, meant not to treat a tumor, but to keep one from ever forming. 60 years. From families in Nebraska with no explanation, to a gene, to a mechanism, to a drug approved on that mechanism alone. The families built the registries. The families funded the awareness. Alive and kickin', built by patients, for patients, widening the reach of Lynch syndrome screening. Found in a clinic, named by families. Find them at aliveandkickin.org. The Gene Channel.